Dear all, welcome to the class of International Economics. In the last few videos, we were discussing different trade theories, international trade theories, from classicals to modern theory or Hector-Auckland theory we have discussed. So from all these theories, we understood that there is a possibility of mutual gain through the international trade. All the countries can get gain through the international trade. So this is the crux of all theories. So there might be comparative advantages in producing some of the products for some of the countries, so they can specialize in that products and they can gain through international trade. But now there is a question: all the countries, they are promoting, would they promote international trade or not? Or they are going to protectionist policies? Okay, we will explain what is protectionist policies. So this is a new module. So here we are discussing theory of commercial policy. Theory of commercial policy, or we can say that theory of trade policy. So all the countries might be adopting some kind of commercial policy or trade policy in international trade. So we are discussing all the policies. So in the first class, we will be focusing to the what is free trade and what is protection, what is a protectionism. So free trade and protectionism, it is a two-way and two options which is available for a country. They can promote free trade or they can go with protectionism, or they can combine the policies in between free trade and protectionism. In some of the products or some of the commodities, they can adopt free trade, and in some other cases they can go for protectionism also. So today's topic, we are discussing four things mainly. First, what is free trade and what are the arguments for and against free trade. Then secondly, what is protectionism and what are the arguments for protectionism, why the countries need protectionism. So these are the topics to be discussed. Firstly, we can go to what is free trade. What is the meaning of free trade? That word itself says what it is. Free trade means there is no any barrier for international trade. The country does not impose any tariff or non-tariff barriers to trade. Mainly there are two barriers for international trade, that is tariff barrier and non-tariff barrier. So we will be explaining what is tariff and non-tariff barriers. But now for the time being, we can understand that there are two barriers, that is tariff and non-tariff barriers. So the countries can adopt either tariff or non-tariff barrier. So if they are not imposing any kind of these barriers, then we can say that the country is promoting free trade. Okay, so in that cases the goods are able to move freely without any restrictions, without any hindrance, without any barrier. When we are talking about the barrier, you should understand that it is not the natural barrier. Suppose that two countries are engaging international trade and they are the distance between these two countries are very large. So it is a natural barrier for international trade. This distance is a natural barrier. But here we are talking about the man-made barrier. So the man-made barriers can be a tariff or non-tariff barrier. So if the countries does not apply any kind of this barrier, then we can say that that country following free trade policy. So according to Jagdish Bhagavati, free trade is a situation which is characterized by absence of tariff, quotas, exchange restrictions, taxes, subsidies on production, factory use and consumption. So if this system is characterized by all these features, then we can say that they are promoting or they are adopting free trade policy. Firstly, there should not be tariff, there should not be quota system, there should not be any exchange restrictions, and the tax or subsidies should not be imposed on production, factory use and consumption. It means that the government is not involving in international trade. It is determined purely based on market forces. And there is no any restriction also. Then we can say that it is free trade. And there are so many advocates of free trade, especially you know that from the classical theory, most of the classicals, I am not saying all the classicals, but there are some economists also from the classicals itself, they have advocated or they oppose the ideas of Adam Smith and Ricardo. So these are the people who advocated these ideas, Locke, Hume, then Adam Smith, then Ricardo, then J.S. Mill, then Bastable, then Marshall, Heberler. Okay, Marshall and Heberler, they are new people. And so these all people have advocated free trade. They promoted free trade policies. So what is protectionism? Protectionism means even though the trade is, all the countries can get benefit through the trade, but practically most of the countries will be following some kind of trade barriers. Either it might be through the tariff policies or non-tariff policies. They might be adopting some kind of trade barriers. It is mainly for protecting their home industries from foreign competition. You know that when there is an international trade, the countries are free, all the companies will come here, and also the goods will flow from one country to another country. There is no any restriction. So automatically the competition also will be high, because now there are large number of companies in any market. They can sell and buy any product without any barriers. So automatically the competition also will be going up. So if the domestic industries companies, or if they are not able to compete with the foreign companies, so it will be that free trade will be harmful for the domestic companies. So obviously the countries should protect that home industries from foreign competition. So this protectionist policies is mainly to protect the home industries from foreign competition. Okay. So there are those people, those who advocated for free trade, they are known as free traders. They supported the idea of free trade. So as we see in the previous slide, so those who support these ideas of free trade, they are known as free traders. Then there are some other economists who favored and who advocated for protectionism. They are known as trade riders, means trade controllers. They talked about the controlling the trade, okay, and imposing some kind of restrictions on free trade. So they are known as trade riders. Normally riding we will be calling ride a bike or ride a horse, okay, but here trade riders means controlling the trade. So the main proponents of protectionism, firstly it is Alexander Hamilton, Frederick List and H.C. Carey. These all people have opposed the ideas of classicals itself at that time of at that period. So they are the main advocates of protectionist policies. Now there are two more things to be discussed. Firstly, what are the arguments for or in favor of free trade, and what are the arguments against free trade? And another one is protectionist policies, then arguments in favor of protectionist policies also we will be discussing. So free trade, as we seen from the trade theories, so there are so many benefits through the international trade or free trade. The first one is maximization of world output. The classical theories, or in all on most of the theories, we have seen that some countries will have comparative advantage, comparative cost and advantage in producing some of the products. So they will be specializing in that products. They will be specializing and they will be producing more, and they will be exporting that commodities to another countries. So what will happen? The production will increase for that country. If most of the countries are following this kind of system, obviously the output of world output will increase, and also it leads to the product specialization. So one country will not produce all the commodities, they will have some kind of specialization, so their production will be increased. So the total world output will be increased through the international trade or free trade. Then optimum use of resources, as we have seen in the product specialization, the factor specialization also possible, and also there is a possibility of division of labor. So the factors will be employed, and they will be more efficient in producing some of the products, and there will be division of labor also. So through this division of labor, the countries can optimize the use of resources, and employment also can be generated through the international trade. So this is another advantage or argument in favor of free trade. The large factor incomes, as we seen in the Hexter-Ohlin theory, the abundant factor will be getting more benefit from the international trade, and their factor income will be increased. So the factor income through will be increased through the free trade or international trade. Then when we are talking about the consumer, what is the benefit for the consumer? Consumer, he will be he will be getting a large number of commodities in the markets, because now the domestic products are available, and also international products or foreign products are available, and also at cheap price. So the price will be cheap and quantity will be more, and domestic and international products or the foreign products also will be available through the free trade if there is no any restrictions. Then enlargement of market and break the monopolies. How it will break the monopoly? Before the free trade, there will be some domestic companies who produce all the commodities, and they will have some kind of monopoly also. But through the international trade, that monopoly will be break down, and there will be large number of companies, and market also will be enlarged. Then technical improvement. If the companies are not technically efficient, They can't compete with the foreign companies. So most of the companies will be efficient, and they will be trying for more technological or technical improvement. So automatically more technological development will come, and also technical improvement also will be coming through this free trade. Otherwise there is the companies will not able to compete with others. Then development of transport and communication. Transportation facility and communication facilities is a very essential factor for improving the free trade, for promoting the free trade. So these all facilities will be improved. Then greater international cooperation and development. Free trade means more countries are connecting each other. They are making deal with other countries. They are coming together. The cooperation of between the countries also will be increased, and it will lead to the development of all the countries, not only few countries but all the countries. So these are the arguments for free trade, but now we will discuss what are the arguments against free trade. Okay, so firstly, when we are going to the free trade, means without any restriction to the trade, there should be some kind of prerequisites for free trade. Otherwise it may not be possible in smooth manner. Suppose that there should not be perfect competition in factor market and also in commodity market, and there should be laissez-faire policies like which is advocated by the classicals. And there are so many prerequisites for the smooth conduct of free trade, but in most of the countries these kind of prerequisites may not be there. So it is with the absence of these prerequisites, it might be very difficult to go for free trade. So this is the one argument against the free trade. Then cutthroat competition. There will be stiff competition in the economy. So if the domestic industries are not able to compete with the foreign industries, so their industries will be collapsed. Then lopsided development. So it will be one-sided development, because suppose that some countries have advantage in producing some of the commodities. Suppose comparative advantage. So they will be producing it, they will be specializing, and they will be exporting that commodities. But the problem is, if some countries are not having any kind of comparative advantage, so obviously that countries will be focusing on the basic agricultural cultivation. So they will be focusing more on agriculture, so they won't be having any comparative advantage, so they can't develop themselves. But the countries, those who are contributing to the international trade, they can develop. So it will be biased towards some countries which have comparative advantage, but the case of other countries will be in difficult situation if they don't have any comparative advantage in producing some specific products. I hope you got that point. So it will be one-sided. So it will be biased for few countries, not for all countries. Then excessive foreign dependence. By increasing the export and import, and by specializing particular commodities, there will be excessive dependence upon the foreign country. So there won't be any possibility for the self-reliance. Okay. Then import of harmful products. If we are promoting the free trade, there won't be any restriction for any products. So some of the products might be harmful for health or injurious to health. That kind of products also will be available in international market, and there won't be any restriction for the import of that kind of commodities. That is also another issue through the free trade. Then emergence of monopolies. Firstly, we said that the free trade will break some monopolies, but again it also will lead to the emergence of some another kind of monopolies. Suppose that some foreign companies are coming here, and they will have monopoly, because if their cost of production is very low, and the companies who are not efficient in the domestic market, all the industries will be collapsed. So there will be some kind of monopoly by the foreign companies. So this is also another issue. So these are the issues against the free trade. Now we will be discussing arguments for protection mainly. Okay, what are the arguments for protection? Is there any need of protectionist policies? Why do we support protectionism? Firstly, you might have heard this first argument, infant industry argument. What is infant industry argument? Infant means little child, right? So that child industry argument here, infant means newly established industries, or we can say that young industries, not very old industries. So that industries should be protected. That is the first argument. Suppose that one child is at his first age or second age, is a small kid. Then if he or she is working, we will be supporting her or him. Why? Because he or she may not be able to work properly. Then the elders might be giving some support for that kid, right? So this argument says that in the same way, the infant industry or the newly established industries also should get some kind of support from the government, because they may not be they may be incapable to face the intense competition from the foreign companies, and they may not be having any economies of scale advantages, because they might be producing very little. They may not be having a equal footing to go with the competition. So if they are not able to compete with the foreign companies at the first stages, okay, they need to get some support from the government. This is known as infant industry argument. This is initiated by the Alexander Hamilton in 1790s, then Frederick List, then Mill, Bastable, and H.C. Carey, as we discussed. So all these people have initiated this argument, infant industry argument. Secondly, senile industry argument. Infant industry means young industries should be protected, but senile industry means old industries should be protected. Some industries, they might be very old, but they may not be able to compete with others, and their productivity also will be very less. So that kind of industries also should be protected, because to protect the domestic employment. So if the industries are declining and they are going inefficient, it means they are in a sunset point. Okay, that's why it is also known as sunset industry argument or senile industry argument. Okay, so they are in old period, and that kind of industries should be protected, because if they shut down, it will lead to the structural unemployment. So in order to avoid this unemployment in the economy, these industries also should be protected. How they should be protected? Because they are going to shut down, because they don't have much investment. their capital, there won't be much capital for them, so they need high investment. In this period, the government should give the support for them. Government should protect them from the foreign industries. Then it will lead to create more employment opportunities in the domestic market. Okay, so this is the second argument in favor of protectionism. And thirdly, protecting the economy from low cost labor, and this is also known as pauper labor argument. Pauper labor arguments means if some countries, their cost of production is very low, or the labor is very cheap in that country, so they can produce the goods at a very low cost. They can export that commodity at cheap price also. So if we are importing that products, some of the industries in our market may not be able to compete with this cheap rate. Here in our economy, the price might be high. Okay, but the import is available at cheap price. Then our industries may not be able to compete with foreign industries. So in this case also, our domestic industries should be protected. Okay, so this is known as low cost labor argument, or pauper labor argument also we can say. Low cost labor in exporting countries, the economy should be protected from import from that countries, because the cost of production is very low there, so the price is also very cheap. Okay, so the domestic economies may not be able to compete with them. Then diversification argument. All the countries needs a diversified industrial structure, especially some kind of industries is very essential for the improvement or the development of for the overall development of an economy. So so all this diversified industrial structure should be promoted. We should not have much excessive dependence on foreign companies or foreign countries. Okay, so this is diversification argument. Then terms of trade and balance of payment argument. As you know, if we are importing more, obviously our terms of trade there will be problem in terms of trade, and also there will be a problem in balance of payment. We might have seen several issues like balance of payment crisis, especially in India. We have in 90s we have balance of payment crisis. So to solve these problems of balance of payment or balance of payment crisis, so we should restrict import from other countries, otherwise we may not be able to solve the issues of balance of payment. Okay, so to get much gain from the trade, and also for the to solve the crisis in the balance of payment, we should go for restricting our imports. So that also in favor argument to the protectionism. Then anti-dumping argument. What is dumping? Dumping means selling at a lower price in international market. Selling at lower price in international market. So one company might be selling at higher prices in their domestic economy, but they will be selling at lower price in international economy. Why? Because in international economy there will be a lot of competition. There will be other companies and other industries also. So there will be competition in the international economy. So they can compete with others at a cheap price. Then also they can get a monopoly power in international market. But they might be selling at higher prices in their domestic market. Even some of the countries might be selling their product below their cost of production in international market. This is known as dumping. What is the consequence of dumping? If some countries are going with dumping, the domestic industries cannot compete with that foreign companies, because here the price will be high. At that time, the price will be very cheap if by the foreign companies. So the domestic industries cannot compete with the foreign companies. So in this case also, a country cannot survive without protection. So some kind of protectionist policies also they should adopt. Then key and strategic industries argument. There will be some key and strategic industries like iron, steel, which is essential for the development of whole economy, as we discussed. So that kind of industries should be protected. Then only the overall development is possible. Okay, so that is known as key or strategic industries argument. The national defense. We cannot import all the weapons and all the tools which is required for national defense from abroad, because it is our secret strategy. So it should not be revealed in front of all other countries. So we can't import all the items for national defense. We should produce some of the weapons and other tools which is required for national defense. Okay, so there will be some kind of restrictions in the import of weapons and all. It is very required for a country for their safety reasons. So this is another argument in favor of protectionism. Lastly, environmental. If we are completely going with the free trade, we may not give any importance for the environment, and we may use up all the natural resources for international trade or free trade, and it may also create pollution. So the legislation also may be lax, means there will not be any strict regulations to control the pollutions also. So if we want a clean environment, if we want to protect the environment, so we need to go with some kind of protectionist policies. Okay, so the environment also should be protected. So it is very essential. So to protect the economy, some kind of protection is to protect the environment, some kind of protectionist policy is also needed. So if you're completely going with a free trade and without any restrictions, it will lead to the degradation of our environment. Then lastly, but not least, through the protectionism, the government can raise the revenues, because tariff and non-tariff, if it is tariff, it is just a tax on import and export. So if imposing some kind of tax on imports, it is a revenue to the government. So through the protectionist policies, government can raise the revenues. So this is then another argument in favor of protectionist policies. So these are the references for all these portions. I think you can Rana and Verma will be enough for AUG students, and also you can refer other textbook. The Vedi also will be helpful. Thank you very much. I hope this is clear for you. In the future videos, we will be discussing what is tariff, what are the different types of tariff, what are the non-tariff barriers. Then it will be more clear, I think. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you all.